All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to another video on the Conscious Approach channel on YouTube. As usual, my name is JV Wins, that is Dogon SS, to talk about another week's worth of garden variety social commentary topics going on in the world of society and culture. Before we get started with this week's video, I do want to say, as I always like to say, that if you appreciate the commentary on this video, if you like this video, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit the like button so that you can get the notification for all content that gets published to the channel. We certainly appreciate it. Last week was a good week for the channel. We grew it. We got a lot of new people coming into the community, and I have yet to spend a single dime doing this. Not saying that that's going to continue, but thus far, there's been no money spent. So we like what we do here. We certainly appreciate everybody who comes to join in. And so always want to encourage everybody to continue to support our logical content and subscribe to the channel wherever you see this video, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, if you catch the videos that we post on Instagram, go ahead and follow us over to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the channel, because we certainly appreciate it. We like to do these videos, and we're going to continue to bring the heat each and every week. So with that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get started. First topic of the week is we're going to talk about Will Smith. Will Smith's response, or not necessarily a response, but Will Smith has that new movie coming out, the Emancipation movie. It's on Apple TV, I think. I'll pass. I'm done with slavery movies personally, but Will Smith, got a new movie coming out, so he's got to do press junk. He's got to do the press thing. And obviously, because of what happened earlier this year with the Chris Rock situation on the Oscars, he's going to get asked about that, and he's going to have to answer questions. Ever since that happened, Will Smith has pretty much been laying low. He did the one sort of Q&A thing with his fans on his YouTube channel back in, I think that was in July. But other than that, he's pretty much been keeping it low key and just, kind of doing damage control behind the scenes. But now he's out in the open, because since he's the star of this movie and this movie's coming out, that you got to do press for your movie. So he's out in the open, and he recently was on the Daily Show with Trevor Noah talking about the situation and what led him to acting out towards Chris Rock in that moment. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to but I'm going to share the screen real quick. This article is from Yahoo. That gets into a few quotes where Will Smith explains why he did what he did or where it all came from. Again, this is an excerpt from his appearance on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. So this article from, again, Yahoo starts off by saying Will Smith has blamed, quote, bottled rage for why he slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars earlier this year. In his first on-camera interview since the incident, which saw him banned from the ceremony for 10 years, Smith discussed his actions. Speaking to Trevor Noah on The Daily Show, Smith said, quote, I was going through something that night, before adding, quote, not that justifies my behavior at all. The King Richard star went on to say, quote, I understand how shocking that was for people. I was gone. That was a rage that had been bottled for a really long time. Smith went on to refer to that he was going through times emotionally that night. It was a lot of things. It was the little boy that watched his father beat up his mother, all of that just bubbled up in that moment. That's not who I want to be. And so you can go on and read the rest of that, but that's pretty much the gist of it. And there's a clip from his appearance on The Daily Show here, so I'll go ahead and replay that. I'll go ahead and play that. It's not very long.
Okay, hang on one sec, bro. Let me mute that out. All right, go ahead.
Okay.
With Trevor Noah.
I was going through something that night, and not that justifies my behavior at all. I would just say, and you're asking what did I learn, and it's that we just got to be nice to each other, man. It's like.
Smith went on to.
So yeah. Now obviously there's longer clips of that. We don't want to get hit with copyright, so I wasn't going to play the clip directly from the Daily Show. But that's pretty much the gist of it. So he's explaining that it was bottled rage. During his appearance on the Daily Show, he actually kind of broke into tears over his remorse towards the situation. So, that's where Will is at, man, and he's going to be doing this for a while. So I hope everybody gets used to it.
You're right.
If you pay attention to this pop culture stuff, I hope you get used to it, because this is going to be going on for at least the next 30 days or so, as he does marketing for this slavery movie that he has coming out on Apple TV. So so that's where Will is with it. He says it was bottle rage and a lot of stuff from his past, and he talked about family trauma. So what do you think of what he said?
It reminds me of the stuff that he was saying earlier. Just somehow playing the victim here, but also extremely remorseful and very emotional. And so for him to break out in tears on the Daily Show there, is part of the course for Mr. Smith. He has to be able to play this side of this event as if he's so remorseful that it makes him cry. And he thinks about this more than you think about it at home. And he's going to convey that for as long as this is ever a topic. The mere fact that he's doing a slavery movie, I didn't know that. But we are due for a slavery movie. The year is almost over. So I'm not surprised that we have a slavery movie coming out. And Will Smith is going to be somewhere in there. So I got to check that out and see what's going on with that. Well, the trailer at least. And see how they're going to spin this. Because there's only so many ways to slice that pie, but they're still going to find a way. So that's interesting. But yeah, for him to go on his press runs, as you mentioned, he's going to continue to do this. Everybody's going to continue to have questions about that event 5-10 years from now. That's my initial thoughts, that he's going to play the sympathy card every time, that, hey, feel sorry for me too. So how do you feel about this?
Yeah, Will Smith has a lot going in his favor. Ironically, as embarrassing as that may have been in the moment, long term, it can probably help him more than it hurts him. That's what's funny. And that's America, I guess. I'm done with slavery movies. I can't remember. I think the last slavery movie that I watched, and I don't even think you can consider it a slavery movie per se. Well, maybe you can, because there's slavery in the movie. It's Django. Yeah. I think Django is the last one I watched.
Same here.
I'm done. I'm done with slavery movies, and I'm done with black person getting shot or beat by the cops movies. I'm done with all these. Like, I'm done. If y'all want to continue to wallow in that misery, go ahead, but I'm off that. But why wouldn't Will Smith join in on that, right? He needs his second Oscars bid. So go ahead and make your slavery movie, Will Smith.
If you want an Academy Award, play a slave.
Yeah. Well, the thing. Well, so he must have doubled up too, because he must have doubled up. He must have went double or nothing on this, because I don't know that he was anticipating actually winning the Oscar for the King Richard movie. Absolutely. So I think he was doubling up and saying, if I don't get it for King Richard, let me have a backup plan to do the slavery movie so that I can double my odds. Because I think he kind of did them back to back or around the same time. So I think he was doubling up, because if I can't get it for playing Venus and Serena's dad, let me get it for being a slave.
You gotta hedge your bets.
It's these slavery movies, man. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah, I remember back when we initially talked about this, I said my personal belief is that Will Smith in that moment was not slapping Chris Rock. I said that he was slapping August Alsina, he was slapping his wife, he was slapping Rick Ross. He was slapping everybody who he perceived to have disrespected him when they were going through that whole ordeal with the Red Table Talk situation. I think he was slapping. I think that he was exacting his vengeance upon all of those people. And in that moment, Chris Rock became a conduit for that. Chris Rock literally became collateral damage. I don't think in that moment he was going at Chris Rock per se, or if he was, Chris Rock was at the bottom of the heap, and he was less of a priority than those other individuals that he was mad at and holding it all in. And I said, if anything, this can teach us a lesson about the importance of learning how to be comfortable with confronting things that bother you in the moment without letting it fester. And I think the greatest mistake Will Smith ever made, which I think you and I both agree that we weren't surprised he made this mistake, because when you become Big Willie style and Hollyweird, it behooves you to not be human. And in lieu of not being human, you do things like become uncomfortable with being confrontational, because in those types of environments, whether it's Hollywood or in the corporate scene, you have to control how you go about displaying your humanity in ways that will not adversely affect your career, which is an inhumane thing to do to yourself, but you have no choice but to do that when you're in those weirdo environments. So, because all of those years Will Smith spent all of that time training himself to turn his humanity on and off, he spent so much time bottling it up and becoming uncomfortable with confrontation. And when you become uncomfortable with confrontation, eventually it's going to boil over, and you're going to end up putting yourself on public display in a way that is not going to be very becoming of you and your public stature. And if you had been more confrontational in moments when it would have benefited you to be confrontational, you wouldn't have experienced that moment as it happened. And I kind of feel like his comments validated my sentiments back then when he speaks about bottled rage, because that's exactly what he was doing all those years, bottling up his rage instead of checking Jada Pinkett Smith about airing out personal details of their marriages on a Facebook channel, or basically allowing this open marriage situation to, number one, exist in the first place, but number two, become public knowledge for public consumption, to the point where you got R&B singers and rappers making collaborative songs that go gold on Spotify, talking about the fact that he's been in a relationship with your wife for this long. I don't care how hyper liberal we become in a society, there's no man to whom that is going to be a comfortable thing to have to deal with. I don't care who you are. I don't give a damn. So, Will Smith bottled all of that up. And in the moment that Chris Rock made a joke about it, he became collateral damage, and that rage spilled over publicly. So to all of the people out there, man, and obviously I have more to say on this, but to the people out there, like, learn how to be more comfortable with confrontation. This is why I always appreciated people like and I don't do celebrity hero worship, but there are certain tidbits of things that I take from certain people that I do find to be valuable in terms of how to orient your life. And this is why I always appreciated people like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, and even Peyton Manning, because Peyton Manning was this way. Tom Brady does it too. In the moment when there's something that's wrong or pissing you off, you need to confront that head on. Like, no, we're not going to let this slide. We're going to get to this right now and resolve this, because otherwise it's going to lead to a much bigger catastrophe down the road. And you're not going to have a catastrophe be levied at my feet, not on my account, especially when I'm not the one who's in the wrong anyway. So, people need to learn how to be more comfortable with confrontation. And if you need something to look at as evidence of that, look no further than Mr. Will Smith, who is now having to remorsefully explain his actions, which were a result of his inability to confront things as they occur, while he markets his slavery movie.
Yeah, and I'll add this, and you hit on a lot of points, especially the part where he couldn't really be himself in Hollywood, and I'll also add on the point where he's basically like a child star, and he's never really had to be himself in front of the public, like, ever. So there was always this dynamic, and we talked about this too when Dave Chappelle had weighed in on this, was basically, you know, talking about his mask coming off.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's an aspect of Will that nobody really seen before, but we always get the Hollywood version of him, the one that's always either in movies or doing interviews where he's also happy and jovial and all these other things. But, you know, everybody has their own balance. So, you know, how are you behind closed doors? And him talking about how him growing up watching his father put his hands on his mother type of thing, that type of anger and aggression. I'm sure his family's seen that before, not to the violent aspect, but his either snarky, passive aggressive, or, you know, whatever type of attitude he may have at home. I think the world saw that he could get out of pocket. And like you said, what the rappers rapping about your wife, everybody on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, just reposting you crying at a table, your wife talking about she having an affair, and all of these various dynamics. There was this level of him trying to reclaim a manhood, if you will. And by being violent on stage, I felt like that was him trying to do some level of rectifying, like you said. So he was slapping all those people.
Mm-hmm.
So not only was he slapping all those people, I also felt like there was a degree of it like, hey, I'm no pushover.
Mm-hmm.
Watch me, y'all. I'm no pushover. And it's like Chris Rock at the Oscars. This is the moment you choose to be a man and put on, you know, put some big boy pants on. But even then, that wasn't a manly act. So you still showed a cowardly way of handling your business. So even in being aggressive, even if being aggressive at times, that doesn't show that you are a man. That doesn't show that you're actually on top of your game. Sometimes displaying aggression such as this shows how weak you are. So in this instance here, he didn't come out looking good at all. His personal life legacy, for as far as I'm concerned, is just completely in shambles. It's a mess. And anybody that observes Will Smith's personal life, because this is a part of his personal life, even though it's a professional event, his personal life is an absolute chaos. And his professional career, one can argue, you know, as far as black entertainers go, especially in the 90s and 2000s, you know, he's one of the best.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as having his ducks in a row at home, he clearly never displayed that. So again, he has to go on this campaign of crying to show people that, hey, y'all, I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll cry. Bro, that's not showing your toughness either. And not that crying makes you weak, because, hey, you know, if you got to cry, let it out. I damn sure do. But the fact that you have to do it on every interview or every time you're talking about this situation shows another level of disingenuousness that he's always showed his entire career in his personal life. So Will, to me personally, I think the guy as an individual, I know he means well, but it never seemed like he ever got his own footing in life. And like I said, from being a child star, you are just, your life is always on display. You're always playing roles that is never yourself. You're always on the go. You got a movie you're filming here. You're probably filming 2 at a time. When do you ever get a chance to sit down, relax, relate, release?
Mm-hmm.
And then you've been doing this for 3 decades. No wonder, you know what I'm saying, the yarn from the sweater is unraveling. So I wish him the best as always. But him crying on stage, or him crying on stage right there, you know, what more can I say? You know, I wish him the best.
Yeah, that stuff is, and there's gonna be more of it. The ironic thing about it is, you know how our current climate, you know how that operates.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be rewarded for it. So it's not necessary. You know, we can sit here and talk like that on this video all day,
Mm-hmm.
but on the grander scale, that's going to work for him, which is what makes this situation so ironic to me. Because, we talk about this kind of stuff often in this, in the current climate that we live in. There are certain things that endear you to the mainstream public, and no one would dare challenge the notion of what you're trying to endear yourself towards. And what are those things? Racial equality, right? Body positivity, mental health. These are all things that if you play yourself towards those narratives, you endear yourself to the general public, and you're rewarded for you're rewarded for emoting yourself towards those notions. You're seen as a champion for those various causes. In this particular case, what will work in Will Smith's advantage, in my opinion, tremendously, is the idea that this is, this will be a referendum on the value of attention that needs to be paid towards mental health. And I think that Will Smith will be a champion for that, because publicly, as he continues to show remorse and contrition, and when he sheds tears and all of this kind of stuff. And I think you said at the top of your remarks on this video, playing the victim. I don't know that maybe he is strategically doing it in order to victimize himself, but I think on the back end it'll play out that way, that ultimately what will be said about this whole ordeal is that Will Smith was the victim of adverse circumstances that affected or compromised his mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And so all will be forgiven, and he'll serve his penance when it comes to the academy and all of that kind of stuff, but really, who cares about that? No one is going to think any less of Will Smith as an actor, or his career for that matter, because he doesn't go to that dumb award show for 10 years. No one's going to care. So really, that to me was not really a price to be paid, in my opinion. But again, I'm not in Hollywood, and I'm not an entertainment journalist, so I don't know all of the perks and privileges that come along with that kind of thing. But I think to the general public, who also does not know about that stuff, no one is caring about the fact that he is not involved with that institution for 10 years. No one's going to think any less of his talent or career because of that. So really, at that point, the only price that gets paid is the hit that he sustains in terms of his image.
Mm-hmm.
And that will easily be rebuilt, because he will become a champion for mental health. And no one would dare challenge that, because in Western culture today, you cannot challenge racism or racial issues. You cannot challenge body positivity issues. You cannot challenge mental health. And there's a few others that we won't mention, but there are certain things that remain. There are certain things that are unchallenged in today's climate. And so because they're unchallenged, it's a faux pas to suggest that Will Smith is not contrite. Why wouldn't he be? Of course he is. So this is actually going to end up working to his advantage, especially when you consider the fact that he's doing it before the premiere of a movie which undoubtedly will register a lot of emotion and feelings from people with respect to those same narrative points, racial equality and all of that good stuff, by way of this slavery movie that he's putting out. So it's funny, what ended up being a situation that kind of made him look kind of bad in the beginning is probably going to end up being something that is advantageous towards him now. Personally, I'm not here for all of that, because you can't, like, you might talk about mental health all you want when it comes to this stuff, but at the end of the day, the guy just needs to learn how to be comfortable confronting things that would otherwise add to his rage, that's going to boil over as time passes along. And that ain't nothing that you need to see a therapist for, per se. Maybe it is for certain people, but dude, just don't succumb to this weirdo lifestyle where it's in your best interest to not be a human and confront things as they happen in the moment. So that's pretty much how that goes for me. Not here for the slavery stuff, not here for the narrative stuff. All of that stuff I'm not here for, but I see it coming a mile away, and so it is what it is.
Hey, get well soon, Will. Get well soon, bro. Seriously. Hey, by the way, guys, race to 1K. You guys see it over there in the corner. We're trying to get to 100K. Not 100K. Well, 100K subscribers one day, but
Yeah.
we got to get to a K first.
Yeah, race to a K.
Race to 1K, man. So help us out, man. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like and that bell notification. All right. Appreciate y'all.
Yeah.
Great.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And with that, we'll go ahead and end on that note. I will say this. I hope the movie does well. I'm not gonna watch it. I don't want to be a part of it, but I still like to see people prosper and be successful. So I hope the movie does well, even though I don't agree with the whole slavery thing, the slavery movie stuff.
I hope he got his check. I hope his check cleared.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is he'll get even more. The better the movie performs,
the more
it'll be later. Even more coin that comes with that. But yeah, he got his check. Yeah. All right. So next up, we are going to talk about a clip that I ran across that was a part of the. This was on the Hardly Initiated podcast. So on the Hardly Initiated podcast, this female was a guest, and she explained why attempting to date, quote, nice guys did not work for her. So I'm just going to go ahead and share this and we'll react. I'm not even going to preface what she said. I'll just go ahead and share it first. But that's pretty much the gist of it. She is going to explain why dating the nice guy didn't work, wasn't good. It wasn't beneficial towards her relationship goals, if you will.
After all the bad boys that I dated, I thought, you know what? Let me just date the good guy. And that didn't work out because I felt like superior to him.
There was no sexual polarity.
It just didn't work out because I felt like I was the boss. I felt
did you find yourself snapping on him and getting a little bit more disrespectful than you normally would?
Very.
That's typically what happens.
Yeah. And I did things to him that I wouldn't do to Katie. And it's unfortunate because he's the good guy. He didn't do anything to me. The problem is that he didn't put me in my place when he should have, whenever that was supposed to happen. At some point in our relationship, he didn't put me in my place as the woman, as his woman, and he didn't show me that he can lead. So I felt like I was leading the entire household when it's really supposed to be him.
All right. So he couldn't lead, and that was my problem with him. Do you have any thoughts on what she said there?
Do I have thoughts? Yeah. So where should I begin with this? All right. So what she's explaining, there's a dynamic. There's two types of women. All right. They all want the same thing. So what she's explaining, every woman wants, but there's two different ways women go about getting that. All right. So there's the mature way, and then there's the immature way. The mature way, you talk it out. One person airs their side, the other person airs their side. There's compromise. They're willing to work things out. They move forward in a direction, trial and error, to get things to go in the right direction as far as how the leadership role and how the household is going to be run and so on and so forth. And then there's the immature way, where there's temper tantrums, kicking and screaming on the floor, and they're looking for a daddy to put them in check. Temper tantrum, they can't get no candy, and they hollering up and down the aisle because they grab the candy, the M&Ms, when they're checking out. And you've seen those kids before. And so those children grow up to be grown women. And then they look for somebody to put them in their place. Now, what the hell does that mean? Put them in their place. She never had anybody to put her in her place, period. So she seeks people in life to put her in her place. So she said that she was dealing with these bad boys. Well, she didn't want that, so she wouldn't go deal with a good guy. But the good guy couldn't do what the bad boys did. Now, the bad boys are bad boys for a reason. All right. The reason why they're bad boys is because they're immature. So then you go deal with a man who's an air quote good man, and he doesn't know how to lead. Well, I think he does know how to lead. I don't think you understand his form of leadership. So at that point, once she goes over to because the bad boy, let's stay over here with the bad boy, because the bad boy, what they're going to do to get her in check is some things that are, there's a certain air of I guess confidence or recklessness that she enjoys from the bad boy to get her in check, whatever that is, right? So she enjoys that, but the reason why he's doing that is because there's emotional immaturity there. The same reasons why she doesn't want to deal with them in the first place. So that she deals with an emotionally more responsible, mature person on the other side, but then she claims the opposite and says that, well, he doesn't know how to keep me in. It's your job to keep yourself in line. It shouldn't be another adult's job to try to keep you in check, whatever the hell she's talking about. So I've got more to say, but I would just say that there's two, all women do want leadership. I'll say that for sure, because from a man, that is a man's job, is to be a leader. But what form of leadership are you looking for? That depends on the level of maturity of the woman, I would say. But how about you, sir? How do you feel about this?
Yeah, I concur. This is another one of that women speaking in code stuff.
Mhm.
When they're using certain buzzwords
Mhm.
in order to seem sensible, but
Mhm.
what they're really trying to say is something that if they said what they're really trying to say, it might reflect poorly upon them.
Mhm.
Like Lori Harvey, when she said, I forgot what she said. You know, I want to date with whatever she said, where basically she was she didn't want to publicly say, I like being sexually liberated and free to have as many sexual partners as I want. So she coded it by using some other term to make it seem as though it was more sensible, even though we knew exactly what it was that she was trying to say. But women to this day still can't walk around saying, I want to have as many partners as I want sexually, because, people are going to look at that and be like, what you on? So she coded it. And here's another one of these code words: leadership and lead. So yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. What do you define as leadership? That's the thing. This clip was a part of a longer form video. I didn't watch the whole thing, so I don't know if the host of that show asked her that question. I'm gonna guess he didn't, because he was basically affirming her feelings by talking about things like a lack of sexual polarity and how she acted out, because that's usually what happens. So it kind of seemed like he was affirming to her that the way that she felt about her relationship with the good guy was justified, instead of asking her to qualify what she means by leadership. So what specifically do you mean by leadership? And I get the feeling that women like her conflate leadership with a guy who is going to end an argument by grabbing you by the hair and throwing you across the table. No, seriously. So to her, I think that's what she means by leadership. Is if we having a fight or an argument, put me in my place. And what does put me in my place mean? Choke me lovingly and throw me over the table and give it to me. That's what she means by leadership. It's a toxic form of leadership. It's an immature form of leadership, as you suggested. But I do think that it has become more and more pervasive. I do think a lot of women nowadays interpret that as a typical form of leadership. And I think the reason why they interpret that as a typical form of leadership is because the men that they choose to give their time and attention to dole out leadership in such ways. So they've just internalized it as normal. Now, what the source of it is, I think your theory is good, that throughout their childhood and when they were in their developmental stages, whether it's a father or some other male mentor figure that would have been present in their life to show them the value of actual leadership, was not present. And so they came to glean whatever they learned from other toxic, dysfunctional men as actual leadership. That very well could be the reason why. I think another reason why, however, is because our culture has suggested that this is the way leadership works. Even women who did grow up with the right value sets, if they are exposing themselves to enough mind control on the internet, which tells them this is how a man should lead you, even they're going to believe that that is actual leadership as well. So I think there's multiple sources from which this came. It's upbringing, but it's also the internet and the messaging that you expose yourself to on a daily basis. But the key is the qualification of leadership. What exactly does that even mean? I think that the definition of leadership is different from, as you put it, the women who seek leadership in a functional way and the women who seek it in a dysfunctional way. But I do agree that they all seek it. That's 100% correct. They do all seek it, which is what makes things like modern feminism a complete and utter fallacy, which I'll have more on that in a second. But but yeah, I think they all seek it. It's just, what do you mean by it? And I think for chicks like this, they're into that. I think they've watched Baby Boy one too many times. They've watched a lot of these hood classics one too many times, and they've listened to one too many rap songs. And so now they believe that a man shows you leadership by, everything that I just said. Choke me, but do it because you love me, not because you're choking me. And, bend me over the table and throw me across the room. As Ari Fletcher said, when we talked about her one time when she talked about her relationship with Moneybagg Yo a few months ago. She says she feels she says she feels like she feels the most, she feels like she loves it when Moneybagg Yo pulls his gun out on her. That's the expression of love that she looks for. Show me that you love me by pulling your gun out. That's the kind of dysfunctional, narcissistic BS that we're dealing with. And so I feel like this chick just subscribes to that. And here's the thing about it. You'll never convince her that she's wrong in how she thinks. You'll never convince her that what she is thinking is incorrect. Her brain is already hardwired for her vagina to respond to toxic leadership. And you're not going to undo that hardwiring. So you might as well just cut your losses if you're a guy who encounters women like this, because it's a waste of your time. And then another thing, and this is the last thing I'll say before I let you back in. When did being a good guy, quote unquote, and being a leader become mutually exclusive? Like, when did we start doing that? We somewhere along the way here, we created this dynamic in which if you are a good man or an air quote good guy, then it must therefore inherently mean that you cannot put a woman in her place and lead her. Like, when did we arrive at that point? But that's what we've adopted. That's what we believe. And, it speaks to what I believe is both the messaging and the upbringing. I think both of those things are at work simultaneously. And it's what's causing this kind of ideology to run rampant more and more and more. But trust and believe, being a good man or a good guy does not mean that you are devoid of leadership skills. It does not mean that at all. It does not mean that you have the inability to put anybody, much less your female, in her place. It just means, what does this individual think of when she thinks of the word leadership?
Agree. And there's a fantasy man out there. They have some type of guy in their brains where, like you said, from influences, outside influences, of course, caregivers and stuff like that. That's number one. But then number two is whatever they choose to watch on TV, read in books or whatever about this fantasy man. And this fantasy man checks all of their boxes, not all women's boxes, because I can take this fantasy man and go to 10 different women and they'll, take that out. I don't want that. Remove that. There's a lot of, similarities between them all, but there's still drastically different from woman to woman, I would say. And, key components like leadership, but how does that present itself with this mystery man? And it doesn't live in reality. I tried to explain to women before through functional relationships that I personally seen in my life and the dysfunctional ones I've seen. Hey, this is how functional works. So there's boundaries. Surprise. You can't do that. You can't do that. That's highly not recommended. Oh, you're controlling. I'm controlling. If we allow these certain parameters within our relationship, we really don't have a relationship at this point. These need to be in place in order for us to move forward. I call that leadership. The women that don't want actual leadership call that controlling.
Right.
So the form of leadership she's talking about, see, that's me putting her in her place.
Right.
Whenever she wants to go do something, is whatever, I'm gonna give her parameters of the relationship. On top of that, I'm gonna tell her as a group where we're going in the relationship. The day-to-day stuff, leadership stuff, yeah, that's getting knocked out too. But who's the CEO of this? Who's running this operation? I am. And these are the recommendations for us to move in a uniform and sound and functional direction. She don't want that.
Mm-mm.
That's not what she calls leadership. She calls that controlling and insecure. So there's two types of women. Like I said, there's the mature ones, and then there's the immature ones, like her. And the immature ones have a convoluted version, like you said, a convoluted version of what leadership actually is. And they do have it confused with sexual domination.
Mm-hmm.
And sexual domination doesn't mean leadership. I mean, if there's leadership in the bedroom, okay, fair. But if that's the only thing the man can offer, if the only thing he's offering is the fact that he's insensitive to whatever you got going on because he's a narcissist, so you're going to do whatever I say. No, you're going to do whatever I say. Oh, he's in control. No, he's in control, all right. And he's also crazy.
Yeah.
So what are you talking about? So my whole thing is, what form of leadership? So she clearly already told me what side of the table she's on. So I already know to bucket these type of responses into the immature category. And I would also argue, you say you dated bad boys. I'm talking about this woman. She said bad boys, plural, and gave a good guy a chance. So I don't know who this good guy was. Don't know where you found him. I don't know how many good guys you've tried, because not every good guy is a good guy.
Again,
and some narcissists.
Right. And so much of it requires qualification on her end.
Exactly.
When you say good guy, what does that mean? Just like the words you use are important.
Right.
So when you say good guy, what does that mean? What was he like? What did he do? I think that if you peel back the layers on it, it'll expose her for what she's really after. And yeah, I just think that for women like this, they interpret sexual domination and physical imposition as leadership. I think that's what she's getting at. And I think if you can't provide that, if you can't physically impose her, if you can't physically impose your will on her, and you cannot sexually dominate her, she will perceive you as weak. And I think that is where they derive their sense of leadership from. That's where I think it comes from. I think that's what's at the root of it.
Yep. And emotional indifference.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here's the other thing about these bad boys. Now, why are they labeled bad boys? Well, because they're bad. And they're bad. Hey, you want the good milk or the bad milk? Give me the bad. Why do they call it bad milk? You'll find out sooner or later. Go ahead and take a swig. But see, you're sitting here dealing with these dudes because they're bad guys. What makes them bad? As I mentioned before, there's immaturity somewhere in there. There's either emotional immaturity, sexual immaturity, or other types of immaturities that's running rampant with this person, psychological. And so with this guy who's just not developed all the way, he's not the best version of himself. And behind closed doors, one-on-one, he'll tell you that. Hey man, I need to get it together. That's why I be treating these women like that. I done had good women before, and I just run them out the door, and I just get crazy on them, and blah blah blah. Yeah, this guy's immature. So, what is it about that? If you're a mature woman that's gravitating towards that, I would argue there's some immaturity in your ballpark if you find that immaturity attractive. So, like you said, what's your definitions of good and bad? Mine is good milk, bad milk. I want good milk.
Yeah.
So if I'm dealing with a female, I'm not out here looking for something that's ratchet, and crazy, and it's bad for my health. I want a woman that's mature, who understands herself, who knows what's going on. And I'm not a dictator. All right. Because there's all kinds of forms of leadership. If you go up and down the business section, they've got all types of ways that you can lead your corporation or your company. So to each their own. But one commonality between all forms of leadership is that there's prosperity and progression that's going on. And if there is no prosperity or progression going on, and if there's always animosity and fights and, low vibrational activities, then there is no leadership going on at all within that relationship. So if somebody comes to me, then they have a convoluted version of what's going on, and I'm trying to lead the way that I know how to lead, and that doesn't work for them, so be it. I put myself in a good guy category. And if I'm not too aggressive in these categories for you, or whatever it may be, that, this fantasy man, and if I'm not aggressive enough in one of these areas, then, so have at it. But
Right.
my
Yeah.
milk has not expired. All right. I'm still good over here. So holler at me in the grocer's freezers, ladies.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, no, I'm with all that. So much of this just boils down to context. And so, we allow these women to get a microphone and to say this stuff, and other women hear it who are impressionable, and they're like, yeah, I didn't think what I thought was crazy because she's saying it too. So I'm right in how I'm going about doing this
Yeah,
stuff.
no.
And it doesn't make it right. You got to press these women on these things. Like, what do you mean by that exactly? Because leadership means many different things. And whether it's in the business world or in regular society or in your personal life, there is no relationship between human beings that exists without roles and rules, because that's what makes sense and that's what leads to them being successful. You just can't have anarchy, and I think that's what a lot of people want, especially like a lot of women nowadays. They just kind of want relationship anarchy. They want what they want. They don't actually want what they say. They just want everything they want, and they want the stuff that does not benefit them to go away. That's what they're really after. But they'll code it as, I want a man who exhibits good leadership. Dating on my own terms. That's what Lori Harvey said.
Yeah,
that was the way she coded. Just say I want to be, just say I want to be promiscuous, so I want to have as many sexual partners as I want and not be tied down to one guy. Like, at least that would have been more respectful. But saying dating on my own terms is coded language. But they kind of have to speak in code.
But yeah, exactly. But since they don't, right? That's a universal language at that point. And so, the code speak. And so if the code speak, because they still don't want to come off, even the women that pride themselves in being sluts, the Amber Roses and stuff, they still speak in code. Because every woman, as much as she would like to claim that she is a whore, what's that girl that we talk about? Brittany Renner, for instance. She glorifies whore lifestyles, but she still speaks in code because there's still something in her that still thinks that's something more sluttier than what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm not that, y'all. And it's like, no, girl, you passed that.
You are that.
You
Yeah.
are that.
You are that.
And so every girl has their own definition of what they think a slut is. And so I'm not going to come off like that to y'all, because I'm not a slut. So even the ones that actually glorify slutdom will still sit there and speak in code.
Yeah, it's
So
crazy.
It's
wild.
It's a survival thrust. And if
Yeah.
if they sit there and they actually say what's on their minds for real, it come out kind of like, whoa. A lot of people will have raised eyebrows and they'll back off, and it lowers her chances for mating. So in order to increase her odds, she has to put a veil up. So if you really can't know what she's about, you know what I'm saying? And so I get it. It's a survival thrust, but you nailed it on the head with this one. Clearly speaking in code. But like we said, bro, the code speak that she gave me at least spoke to immaturities.
Sure. Yeah. I don't think anyone who knows better is going to be fooled by that. But there's just increasingly more and more people who don't know better on both sides, men and women. So,
agreed.
Yeah, you need to check that stuff, people. Guys out there, these women start speaking these coded languages to you, talking about leadership and all of this other weirdo stuff that they like to throw out there, controlling, leadership, insecure, these buzzwords. That's a reflection on their mentality, not yours. So I really would suggest that you ignored it.
Stay firm.
They're not even saying what they think they're saying isn't even what they're saying. So it is what it is. But there you go. Be a leader, guys. Be a leader. All right. So now we finna talk about GloRilla.
Oh no.
GloRilla, she's another one of these ratchet female rappers. I feel like she's a dime a dozen. She sounds exactly like the rest of these female rappers and talks about the same stuff. But she had a PSA for all of the ladies out there who try to find love in the club. So we are going to react to her PSA because she's so insightful, this GloRilla. We're going to react to her PSA after we watch this clip.
I just gotta say this. I just gotta say this. If you trust a that you met at the club, you was a hot ass mess and a goddamn fool, and you don't got no motherfucking home training. Cause bitch, why the fuck could you sit up here falling in love with a that you know you met at a place where he looking for hoes at? Bitch, you looking for hoes. He finna treat you like a motherfucking hoe, bitch. Why the fuck could you send your dumb ass right here falling in love? Stay woke. Stay the fuck woke.
Yeah.
Wow. GloRilla. Now, I gotta look into that. All right, I gotta see what's the naming of that about.
What do you mean?
I mean, yes, close to gorilla, but
why
you wanna
I think she's just playing on gorilla, and then the glow part is like glow up.
No, I know that, but gorilla, like she talking about killing people, like that's why I said, is she like NBA young boy of this, or is she just talking about gorilla style clapping her ass?
I think it's just, I think you're giving her too much credit. I don't really think she thought it that far. I don't really think she put that much thought into it. I think she was just like, glow up. Ooh, gorilla, GloRilla. I really don't think it's that deep. I don't. Because I've not heard many of her songs, but the songs that I have heard that are on the radio, which is buffoonery, is the FREEF.
It's her. That's her.
Yeah, that's her.
Okay.
And then the song with Cardi B, and so yeah, she's just talking about
gorillaing it up.
Yeah. She's just talking about extracting men for resources and using them and getting rid of them and taking another woman's man and check your man because I smashed last night. Da 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 da. So there's nothing There's nothing complex about her. I'm not giving her that much credit. But I don't. Also, I thought it was real funny that she said "stay woke." Usually, when somebody says "stay woke," they're talking about other more deeper, serious topics. And so I thought that was funny too, that she was like "stay woke" talking about something like this. But what were your thoughts on GloRilla's PSA? Finding love in the club.
Well, you got you got to see, right? Because I didn't know who GloRilla was until our little, back and forth right there. But there's people out there that do know who this woman is.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I would argue her fans weren't woke to that yet. So she was putting her people up on game. She knows her brand. And she knows who comes to her shows, and she knows who's in her comment section and who downloads her music. And they be looking for the baller guy in the club, right? So because who else is going to trick off like that? Not a air quote good guy. So it's going to be a bad boy at the club. He's tricking off. He's at the club. He's looking for booty shakers, girls from rap videos, girls from pornography. And if they fit the bill, well, like he said, he's going to treat them like the hoe that they're displaying themselves as. So while he's dealing with you, most likely he's going to keep going to clubs and keep trying to, skeet off on random pornography rap type girls. So her fan base may not have thought that far outside of the box. And then she's like, hey, listen, ladies, newsflash, wake up. Those guys at the club are bad boys. But I would also argue, if they listen to GloRilla as much as they may have, then they might be in the same boat as that last girl that we were talking about. And then a good guy, well, she's going to be scared of that too, because he doesn't know how to get her in line. So we got ourselves here a conundrum, sir, where women are saying on one side, hey, don't deal with the bad guys. But those same women that listen to those songs promoting that same type of foolishness will go talk to an air quote good guy. He just not cutting it. He just ain't slamming them up against that table hard enough. Or not at all. So how do you feel about this one, sir? This is a wild topic.
I think that we are actually on the opposite ends on this.
Okay.
I don't know who she was talking to.
Okay.
When I watched it, I was confused. I don't know who that message is for.
Mm-hmm.
Who and when I say you and I are on opposite ends, what I'm meaning is the recipients of her message is what I'm referring to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who that was. I don't know who that's for. I find it hard to believe, first of all, okay, based on the limited amount of music that I have heard from her, she is the girl who goes to the club to get with. She does the club. She does the club ecosystem stuff. So she's in the club. Already, she already knows she's in the club, and her capacity in this place is, for lack of a better way to explain it, a woman of the night. She's not looking for love from nobody. Listen to her songs. She's all about, hey, if you want this, you're gonna have to pay for it. My vagina is worth this much money. She's like she's another one of these female modern rappers who are, masquerading as hip hop stars, but are in actuality modern day sex workers. Don't take my word for it. Listen to her songs. I'm not making this up. She says it. So, she's talking about, she takes other dudes, other chicks, men, and She knows that you're married to this guy, or that this is your man, but he in the club, and so he tried to holler at me. You need to check your man, and I let him smash and did this and did that, or we did this, and this is the price, and that's her music.
Mm-hmm.
I find it hard to believe that a chick who peddles that kind of stuff would ever be confused as to whether she should be looking for love in the club. Furthermore, I find it hard to believe that anyone who is a fan of hers would also be confused as to whether the club is a place in which I should be looking for love. So it begs the question, who is that message for? Is she perhaps experiencing, as you expressed it, a conundrum? I don't think so. She ain't that complex of a person. She ain't that deep. Maybe she'll experience that conundrum once she's past her physical prime and realizes that her options are dwindling right before her very eyes. But I think in the moment, while she hot and she got all of these #1 singles and she's exhibiting, she looks the part. She talks it. She has the tattoos. I don't know what her body looks like, but I'm imagining she has the body for it too. She ain't worrying about none of that stuff right now. And nor does she have to, because she's extracting everything that she needs out of the game while she can. So I'm really just confused. I don't know who the message is for. Like, I don't think there are any women who are looking for love who listen to GloRilla in excessive amounts. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But I don't know too many chicks personally. All of the women who I've met and who I know still, who are of the variety of I like a romance and to fall in love with a man, not too much GloRilla on their Spotify playlists. Maybe that's a limited sample size that I'm operating from, but I ain't seen that. So I just don't know who this message is for. She's one of those women. Back when we used to do the club thing, we would go to the, when we was in, in the younger days in the 20s, and we was going to the clubs and all of that kind of stuff. It's 3, sometimes 4 damn days a week, at the peak of it. She is one of those women who we saw every time.
Yeah.
Every time. It didn't matter if Friday night she was at the club to go on Friday night. Saturday night she was at the club to go on Saturday night. Sunday she was at all of the nightcaps. She was at all of the homecoming parties. She was at all of the frat club parties, those venues. She was at all of this stuff, all of it. FAMU set Friday afternoon. She was there on the scene every time. Didn't miss a beat, never missed a day. She's one of those chicks. And every time you saw her, you never saw a man with her. You didn't. Maybe every once in again, maybe every once in a while you saw a sponsor. So maybe when we went to the club, she'd be in there and there'd be some dude who was sponsoring her, buying her drinks. Maybe she'd give him his number. Maybe they leave together. But sure enough, the following week, she was in the club again, doing the same thing. She's one of those chicks. Those women don't look for love in the club, not because they look for love elsewhere, but because they are soulless and devoid of the capacity for such things, at least right now. So I don't know who she's talking to. Who are you talking to, GloRilla? Further context is required. Please qualify your statements. I want to know who you're talking to. Maybe she considers herself a spokesperson on behalf of all women, not just ratchet chicks who like going to the club 4 nights a week and are going to make sure that they are in the strip club every other week, or always at NBA All-Star Weekend, or whatever city the Super Bowl's in, they're going to all of those parties and stuff like that. Live on Sundays, King of Diamonds Mondays, even though King of Diamonds ain't around no more. Maybe she believes that she is a spokesperson for all women and not just those women. And those women would primarily be her fans, I would imagine. But if that isn't the case, I want to know who the hell she's talking to, because I'm confused. These chicks aren't looking for love. Again, it's not because they believe that they are it's not because they believe they deserve love and are just looking for it elsewhere. They know better than to do so in the club. They're just soulless and they're devoid of the capacity for love right now. So they're going to do what they do. They're going to inhabit their spaces. They're going to be in the clubs and they're going to be in all of those parties, and they're going to do it routinely every week. It's a mechanical function of theirs. And they're not looking for love. They're looking for sponsorship and attention and clout. And they're going to get all three because there's enough men who inhabit those spaces who are willing to give it to them. And they're going to rotate them like a carousel. They're going to share them. And no woman who is in favor of being put on a carousel cares about looking for love in the club or otherwise. So I just don't know who the hell she's talking to.
So here's what I'm saying, and here's what I think she's saying. So are they looking for overt love in the club? No. But they're looking for somebody to cake up with and chill with all the time. That they are. Then once they get themselves in a situationship with a guy from the club, they end up falling in love with a guy from the club. But then the guy from the club treats them like a whore, like she says, and he does her wrong or something like that. Newsflash, girls, you've tried to find love in the club. So treat the guys at the club as the guys from the club. Don't take these guys from the club home. That's more or less her message, I would say. So it's not overt, I'm looking for love. Don't fall in love with a guy from the club. That's more or less the message I think she's trying to deliver. Okay. And so, and even then, I would say that, because I don't even know who this person was until you sent this today. And then until you said the song that she said. So this was out there in the ethos without me touching it. So, but the girls that's on her feed and on her timeline, they will see this. And she is talking to her constituency. And these people out there are going, damn, she right. She right. Because that last dude I was dealing with, you know, that I got all caked up with, he was no good. And he was from the club. I thought he was like different. And here's the thing. Just like we said in the last conversation, and I said in previous, all women of the evening want a man. They do. Now, in a polyamorous or one-on-one situation, who knows? I don't know. But everybody wants love. But not everybody knows how to acquire. And even if they acquired it, everybody don't know how to keep it. So especially if they're in a broken down ratchet category, like GloRilla fans. Now, mind you, if you're a GloRilla fan right now, I'm not calling you ratchet or broken, but I will ask you to look in the mirror right quick. All right. Yeah. And then so if that's where your lane is at, there's still something in there that wants and longs for what I call normality, and normality meaning balance in their life. Because just thoughting it out, having sex and then getting up and leaving, or him getting up and leaving without any actual cuddling, not actually talking or nothing like that, it feels weird and nobody likes it. And nobody likes it. So there's people out there that can fake the funk in public, but they cry when they're at home in the mirror because they'll go out and they'll see the man and the woman walking down with a kid and they look like they happy together. And I don't see nobody that sees that and go, they out their damn mind. Whenever people see that, they go, oh man, hey, keep it up. You know, oh man, wish I had me some of that. And everybody that's out there living the whore game does that. So then they try to find love wherever they can find it. But if they spending all their time at the set on Friday, they at the club every other time or whatever, they got somebody they like going to the most. There's one guy that's always hitting it. She's hitting other guys too, but there's one consistent dude that's always hitting. She love him. Don't fall in love with him. Where'd you meet him, girl? The club. So the thing is that this whole ratchet lifestyle, you know, it's a facade, and these are hurt people in there. And the times that I will go to the club sober, those were the wildest moments for me. I did not fit in there. I had to be out of my mind on something. So I had to be drinking or something, you know, under the influence in order for me to have a good time amongst all of that shenanigery. And most people in there, the clubs that I used to go to, were in the same boat. So if you drink you binge drinking 2-3 times a week. There's something going on there. And so they come to these places to congregate, and by default, you meet somebody. By default, you end up talking to them a little too longer than you're supposed to. Then, air quotes, you air quote fell in love. So I don't think people go there and say, I'm gonna find my wife. I think people just go in there and try to find themselves a little situation. And situations go on a little too long sometimes because that person's cool. Then you end up falling in love with somebody you met from the club. So
I don't disagree. Yeah. I don't disagree with a single thing that you said. I just wonder if that's what she was saying.
I think so.
Okay, because there's a difference between saying don't go to the club, meet somebody and fall in love with them, and don't go to the club looking for love. There's a difference between those two things.
That's fair.
And I think there's a I don't know which one. I don't know. I don't know which one she was saying. So if what she was saying was don't go to the club, meet somebody, and then fall for that trap of letting them, get you to where you don't fell in love, then I'm willing to concede that first of all, there's nothing that you're saying is incorrect, but whether that's what she meant is what I'm challenging. I don't know. But I'm willing to concede if that's the case, because that's fine. We all do what we do and go where we go for reasons. And so I'm not necessarily faulting people, women or men, who like going to the club a lot. I would say that if you are the type of person who is looking for functionality and non-toxicity, going to the club is probably not the right idea. But if you're going to these places to, let loose but have zero expectations, then obviously I don't, that it is what it is, because we all have our various vices in different ways and all that kind of stuff. I just feel like there's a possibility that what she was trying to say was, we all out here looking for somebody, so don't go to the club looking for that because you ain't gonna find it. Right. Well, that's kind of oxymoronic coming from an individual who creates the kind of content that you create. And so that's why it kind of became a bit confusing for me. I just, but that's why conversations like this are so interesting, and why it would be nice if, at some point maybe she would further clarify what she meant, because I don't know which is which, but I'm willing to entertain both notions. I just don't buy this idea that the women, what I don't buy is the idea that women who are in search of that are in need of such a message, and that her fans who are in need of such a message don't care because they're going there for an express purpose, which isn't to find love, but to get whatever else they get out of it. I think these days a lot of women are just kind of becoming resource extractors and man eaters, and so there might be a part of them that is in search of balance. And yes, every woman does want a man. That's 100% correct. But in lieu of the ultimate goal, they're going to go to the club in order to exact their man-eating tendencies and to be a resource extractor. And I feel like that's what a lot of women who do this on a regular basis go for. And so the message falls on deaf ears because that wasn't the intent upon which they went there in the first place. Now, if you do go there and it just so happens that you run up on the baller or the athlete or the entertainer and you end up, falling for them and falling for the okie doke, then sure, the message would apply. But otherwise, I kind of feel like some of it requires more context, I guess is what I'm saying. And like these chicks, going back to the example that I brought up about women being in the club all the time. I saw it for years firsthand. We all did. We were there. Like, how many times every weekend did we see the same chicks in the club on the same nights, multiple nights a week? And every time we would look at them, either ignore every guy who approached them, or if it was the right kind of club guy that they were looking for who came along, they might seem like they were hitting it off, but the next week they were in there again without that dude. So I don't even know how much caking up they're looking for, unless they're, unless it's a 1 week rental cake up. Because if you were really trying to cake up, I don't think you'd be in there again on the same nights the following week. So that's what I'm saying is, it depends on your motivation and the reason why you're going. And from GloRilla's standpoint, it depends on what she meant. So this was actually an interesting thing that came out of this one, because I would like to know what she meant specifically.
And so here's my thing
yeah.
with those girls, right? So, for thoughts, bro, you're not gonna stop a thought from going to the club, period. So she'll have a stable guy that she smashes, period. Now, is that regular? Like, is she gonna spend Friday night with him caked up? No. When she leaves the club, that's why she don't leave the club with all those guys. She's looking for something else, but there's a guy at the house that's waiting.
Sure.
And so in those situations, that's the guy that she likes or loves or whatever. But she's looking for something else to replace. But at the same time, also just looking for the attention and validation that she gets from going out so many times.
Okay.
But even if she gets caked up, you're not going to see her have a traditional boyfriend. That you're not going to see that level of caked up. So, but every thought has her thought boyfriend, and he's most likely a thought, and he's okay with her going to the club all the time. And it's not because he's a simp at the house. He's probably doing his thought in somewhere else. He's at another club. So there's a whole thought network that's going on out there that traditional people don't get involved in. But there's a whole underworld. Yeah, there's a whole underworld lifestyle going on out there. And those girls that we saw doing that were doing that. That's what I would argue.
For sure. They 100%, they were 100% doing that. I think what I'm ultimately coming at it from is they were 100% doing that. And in my opinion, they were also at the time. So everyone can change and grow and evolve and become different and gain new and different perspectives. But at the time, those were women who were devoid of the capacity for love.
Actual
they did
love,
not,
real
yes,
love. Yes.
Yeah.
No.
But
yeah,
okay, but GloRilla is speaking on actual love.
See,
that's what
that's the
she's
thing.
speaking on.
So that's the
I
thing.
think that's what I think somewhere, look, I think somewhere in her mind, what she's speaking on is actual love. It's just her interpretation of the pursuit of it has become twisted into this weird type scenario in which you look for it in all places, club included. And what she's saying is dial it back from the club because you're not going to find the actual genuine love there. That's what I think that's where I think she's coming at it from. But I don't know how receptive the message is, because the people who need to hear it the most, her fans and her included in all likelihood, are still going to do what they do. And at this moment in time, I don't necessarily think that's something that's on their radar anyway. They're not walking around saying, where can I find love right now? Or at any point. That's why they go to these places all the time.
I get what you're saying.
Because they're just trying to do their thing.
And I would say that she's incapable in talking about the kind of love that you think she's talking about. She's incapable even processing that. And so she's similar to the girl in the last video where she was talking about good. Well, what's your definition of good? So her talking about love. Well, what's your definition of love? And so you are talking about the more traditional, real, factual love. Absolutely. What is she talking about? I wouldn't want to get love advice from her. So, the real kind. But if she's talking about just street love, just love, then she's talking about what I was referring to, more of the situational ship, getting your feelings involved. That's what she's talking. That's what I think she's talking about. Not real hardcore family marriage wife.
I got you. I got you. And perhaps you're right. But again, this also takes me back to the last topic where I said, your words matter, and how you qualify your statements matter. So yeah, I'm willing to concede that if that's the case, I just don't know which one of them she meant, you know? Because, bro, I'm telling you, these days, it doesn't like the sentiment is kind of the final resolution. So even if I believe, even when I hear the word love and I'm thinking one thing, and GloRilla or someone else hears the word love and she thinking something else, the sentiment is to you as an individual, what does love mean to you? This thing that you're seeking. I feel like it's interesting. I wonder which one of those she meant. But yeah, in terms of the
Me
club
too now.
dynamic, in terms of the club, I'm just saying, based on her music and her lyrics, and then she brought up she used the word love, and then she's talking about the club. Interesting stuff there. I just wonder which one of those she meant. Maybe now I'll pay attention to her a little more when she says things, not her music, because I think her music is trash. But maybe I'll pay attention to her more when she talks and see if I can get a deeper glimpse into how she actually thinks about stuff like this. Because I kind of feel like she's just a club girl, I kind of feel like she's just a club chick, an attention seeker.
Yeah.
And when you do that kind of stuff, and you do the whole situationship and falling off with dudes from the club, it's hard for me to reconcile the idea of love with that. But I understand what you're saying and what she might mean by
That's
love.
love in the thought universe.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, I get it. And I completely understand that. But who is your message for? That's what I wonder. Who is she talking to?
Yeah, who you talking to, GloRilla?
Yeah.
Add us at Conscious Approach and let us know what's going on with your next spill, because we would like to know.
Yeah. Now she put out a single and and it's a love ballad. Maybe that'll answer our question. Who knows?
if she want that real bag, she better do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? She want that real bag.
Yeah, we'll see. But good luck to you, GloRilla. That was good content. That was a good video.
Yeah, and I was just joking about all that other stuff, man. I'm kind of a comedian too, so it's all part of the act. So GloRilla fans and GloRilla herself, man, y'all do y'all thing out there.
All right, yeah, sure. I'll let you have that. And on that note, man, we're gonna go ahead and close this week's video out, man. That was a lot of fun. That was good stuff. As usual, I always like to say, man, subscribe to the channel so you can get the notification when all new content is published to this channel. We do this every week. Specifically, we record these videos every Tuesday. We post the video segments throughout the week. So if you're watching this on stream or if you're watching the video segments, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, because we have more content like this all throughout the channel. Click on some of the older videos. We bring heat like this all the time. As I said before, my name is JV Wins. You can find me on Instagram at JV Wins, JVWINS. You can also find Conscious Approach on the Facebook or the Meta as well. Just search Conscious Approach. Subscribe to the page, like the page, and also share the videos. Comment wherever you see these videos, because we do pay attention to comments. We do respond. I know I do. So always pay attention to comment where you see these videos, share, like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Check out the website, consciousapproach.com. Even if you're watching these videos via upload on Instagram, comment there. We pay attention to that. And if it brings you back to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, man. You won't feel as though that click was a waste of your time. We certainly appreciate you supporting logical content, and we look forward to having you once again on the next video.
And the name is Dogon SS, and you can find me on Instagram at Dogon_SS and on YouTube at Dogon SS. Also, I'm on DraftKings at Dogon_SS. Come over and get slaughtered. All right. And as I always say on every pod, everybody, all right, don't be too high, don't be too low. Keep it calm, keep it chill, keep it player, keep it even kill, man. And don't let anybody get you off your pivot, especially you, good guys. Don't turn to the dark side. Don't fall for the propaganda. Y'all 10 toes down, stay 10 toes down. And until the next time, fellas, we're out of here.
Yeah. We gonna see y'all later, man. Subscribe to the channel. 1K subscribers. That's the current goal. We're trying to hit 1K subscribers.
1K.
So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, man. Help us get to 1K, man. We are growing this thing out. Otherwise, we're gonna go ahead and close out. We'll see you on the next video. Peace.
Peace.
GloRilla, holla at us.